Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenges of being a man in modern society and whatever the hell that even means. I'm Kane, and joining me this fine evening are Ryan and Matthew. How are you both, gents?
Good, thanks, Kane.
Yeah, doing all right. Little had a thriving party night last night in lockdown. That actually went into the wee hours of the morning. So still surprisingly feeling okay.
So what does that entail exactly? Because we've all done Zoom drinks over lockdown here in Australia. What did you get up to last night in the capacity of video?
So we did a virtual escape room with some friends, which was good. We actually cracked the case. It was a Sherlock Holmes theme one. But we were doing it with cocktails, and then the cocktails just did not stop flowing until about 1:30 this morning.
What were the cocktails of choice?
So we usually catch up with these friends kind of once a week, once a fortnight, and we've done like different cocktails like mojitos and tequila sunrises and different ones. But this weekend was Cosmopolitans.
Hey.
An absolute classic. I was really hoping you'd say the Fluffy Duck.
No, not the Fluffy Duck. I mean or the Flaming Homer would have been nice. But
I think if you're on either of those, you probably wouldn't be in a fit state, because a Fluffy Duck is way too creamy to be smashing all night, and a Flaming Homer, well, we know how that went in the Simpsons episode. Flaming Mo. Well, gents, given that you are in a state of disrepair this evening, Ryan, we just thought we'd talk about the motivation to do things around the house, bits and pieces, housework, those sort of things, especially given I'd imagine you just CBF doing anything today.
Today's going to be one of those days where it's going to be a burger for lunch and just some binge watching of the TV series, which I have not done in a long, long time. So I'm oddly looking forward to it.
Well deserved, given everything which has been happening over in the UK, and your smashing of non-Fluffy Duck cocktails last night. So we all do one of them every now and again. Matthew, what about you? Motivation to do stuff around the house. The stuff which just has to get done, and just like the constant sort of, I don't know what the right word is. There's like you're on the hamster wheel of just doing the same chores week after week, and how you get the motivation to, just repeatedly do them.
It feels like that at the moment with the lawn up here. Illusion cocktails for me, boys, by the way. I was playing your phone. I'm still stuck in the 90s. Yeah, motivation. It's a funny one. I think, I look at my tasks, and I've thought about this the last couple of weeks, after I went for a run actually with someone, about motivation and what sort of gets us to the point of doing a task. And after thinking about it, the tasks that I do, I sort of break down into what needs minimum motivation and what needs maximum motivation. So the run, for example, for me to go for a run of a night time, that needs minimal motivation. I enjoy doing it. There's no trouble. For me to go for a run in the morning, maximum motivation. The only reason I go for a run in the morning is if I had someone to run with who's going to hold me accountable. Mowing the lawns, well, again, that needs maximum motivation because no one wants to do that. And the only reason I do go and do it is because I see it and it's growing out of control. Well, Kim's on my back. So then I go out and do it. But the nag factor is a big thing that gets, and that's not just mowing the lawns as well. That's for a lot of tasks. The nag factor kicks in a lot. But I thought as well, maybe it's the end result of the task you're doing, potentially for some things, not doing the dishes. But if for me especially, once I've mowed that lawn, it's going to look schmick for a good week. And I'm going to be coming home every night going, geez, I love the look of that. And I think the motivation to do the task is, I need less motivation, I guess.
Mate, get some fake grass. It looks the same every night.
I did look into that.
Now, if you go a week, so in summer in Australia, you pretty much have to mow on a weekly basis. In Queensland, definitely on a weekly basis for it to look smick in, to use your words. Like, what's the worst thing would happen if it went, 2 weeks? Like, you'd lose Sammy out in the backyard. Like, the dog would disappear. Like, what would happen?
That's another good point. Absolutely nothing. It would just grow, and that's probably the same with a lot of tasks around the house that can be put off, and you can be doing something a lot more fun, but potentially. But I guess for me, that's something that gives me a little bit of joy, coming home and seeing a nice clean backyard or a nice cleanly cut grass. And it's going to be different for everybody, who's listening out there. What's going to bring you joy? But back to your initial question, yeah, nothing's going to happen. I mean, the dishes piling up in the sink, if we didn't do them for a week or two, maybe a different outcome.
Now, again, there's a thing called a dishwasher. I don't know if Queensland are aware of these things. So you can buy them from like Harvey Norman, most sort of white goods places. You just hook them up, and they'll actually do the dishes for you on the whole, mate.
Mate, I'm well aware of where our dishwasher is. Don't you worry about that. Some other people may not be, but
yeah, that's a bugbear of mine, actually. The stuff which sits in the sink for like a day is soaking. Yeah, because you have like a bowl of cereal and it needs to soak all day. So the dishwasher can cope with it. Like, I think you could just get maybe a rinse and just get put in. So
our dishwasher was placed in between the dining table and the kitchen sink, but the kids will still walk past the dishwasher and just place it next to the kitchen sink, not in the sink, just next to it, and then just walk away. So there's some education happening at the moment.
Yeah, the dish fairy just makes these things sort of magically disappear.
Yeah, that's right.
What about you, Ryan? On a weekly basis, like, what are your tasks which you feel I feel you have to do, or how do you get the motivation to do your sort of tasks which are required of you as a man, putting his elbow grease into the household?
I mean, this is one of the benefits about being quite minimalistic and living in an apartment is the tasks are much less. Like I'll go back home and see my mum in a big suburban house in Perth, and she's like, I've got all this housework. It genuinely, to make this place shine, would take an hour and a half top to bottom, and I'm talking that's full gamut type thing. So it's helpful in that sense, like, but I mean, it's like, to Matt's point, there's maximum minimal motivation. I just try and do it when I'm in a state that I couldn't think or care. So like in the morning, I'll usually empty the dishwasher. Dishwashers are great, Maddie. And I'm getting a feel for Canes is basically just outsource and minimize wherever he can, fake grass, dishwasher, everything. But like, I'll put the kettle on, start brewing a coffee, and as it's kind of drip brewing, I'm just putting all the stuff away from the dishwasher in a day is at 6 a.m. in the morning type situation. So I'm not really having to think about it. Other than that, it's probably just that end result. But to be fair, TK definitely does. She likes the sparkle a lot more than I do. So I'll be like, I can wait another week. Whereas it's because it can actually be done so quickly, we'll just kind of jump in and do it. So I've never really had a big problem with any of that stuff. It's just, but then, yeah, I've never really lived in a big place. So I suspect that might change in the future when I mow lawns or deal with a bigger house or kids stuff. But it's quite it's easy to just routinize it into me doing other things around it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. It makes a lot of sense, actually, that you can just do it when you just put it almost on autopilot at certain times during the week when you just do those sort of things. You are probably right, though. It will change regardless of where you live when you have kids. Like the amount of stuff which you need to clean up around kids, no matter from sort of age 0 to my little fella's 5 and a bit now. I can't believe how much food a 5-year-old can manage to not get in their mouth. Like he still seems to eat with his hands. Like he'll just tonight there was like corn on his plate, which had cheese on it. He's like picking up the corn and putting it into his mouth. He's got a fork and a spoon and a knife there, but just, he loves, we made chicken Kiev. Like he always used to just eat schnitzel. Now chicken Kiev, he goes, oh, I like that a lot. So I end up giving him my chicken Kiev. Great. So he eats that. And like, there's a fork there, and we showed him how to use a knife, and he just saw it. So he liked that. But then still, instead of forking it into a mouth, we just still pick up the piece of chicken in his hand, and then just, a bit of chicken falls on the floor. So yeah, the cleaning up side, it's a perpetual state of cleaning up when there's a child around.
Never ends.
Also, if you, like, I grew up my mum's I think she's got borderline OCD with the state that she likes to keep things clean and ordered. But I do think that makes you go, okay, well, grew up in a clean place. I like to keep things clean. So I don't know whether that automatically heightens the prioritization of, no, it's actually important to have an environment that I don't feel like I'm living in a dump.
Yeah. Do you think it's a generational thing? Because I know my mum and, my nana and my aunties and stuff are very much the same. It's all very much, spick and span, and especially if someone's coming over. And I think it's been passed down to my wife. When people come around, it's like, oh my God, got to put everything away. I'm going to fluff the cushions. This has got to go here. Everything's got to look perfect. Like it's almost like it goes to where something maybe wasn't a priority before, like the cushion could be unfluffed. Everything has to be sort of perfect. Do you find anything like that? Have you found anything like that?
Absolutely. My parents were big clean freaks. We'd always have a tidy house, and every weekend we'd be cleaning it, or mum would be cleaning it, and we'd be helping out as well. But it was always spick and span, which is obviously that's passed on to me as well. And having 3 kids, like talk about motivation or demotivation or demoralization, whatever it is. When you clean the house, I cleaned the house this morning, and then half an hour later, the kids are eating at the dinner table again. I know I've vacuum mopped, and then bang, there's just crumbs and shit everywhere over the floor. And you just think, what the hell what's the point? What's the point? Wait till the end of the day and then sweep it all up. Yeah. But I need to bring it back a notch. Kim's parents weren't as probably on the clean side as my mum and dad were. And, I kind of wish mine weren't as bad as what they were. Just so it was a bit, I'm a bit more relaxed, because sometimes I maybe go a bit too far, especially with the kids. Like I need to remember sometimes, hey, they're kids, they're learning.
But apart from your little fella, the other 2 should know how to get food from their plate into their mouth. Like my little fella, like at five, you should be able to do that. Like they've got no problem getting an ice cream in there without any problem in the world.
No, they can definitely do that as they get older. But it transitions, Kane. It goes from so Mia, she can eat fine. She's 9 years old, she should be able to. But then it goes to the fact where she'll have 2 or 3, maybe even 4 outfit changes during the day. And where do those clothes go that she's worn for an hour? And they're clean, they go into the dirty laundry basket. So by the end of the week, it's not food on the floor, it's a massive pile of washing. And then you have to go through it. Did you really wear this all day? No, we'll put it back in the cupboard.
Yeah, you're right. It's just that it's perpetual. This is your future at some point, Ryan. Perpetual chores due to children.
Joyous. I think, it would be that motivation factor. Like I remember when I was renovating an apartment, and that needed a bit of motivation from time to time, because you kind of get like, it starts off anything, you're like, yeah, this is going to be great, and you start getting into it, and then you get like to a dip where you're halfway through it and you've just destroyed a bathroom, and you can see how much more to go, and you're just like, oh God, I just don't want to do this anymore. But it's that thought of what is it going to be at the end of this that's really is kind of the motivation. But I mean, with kids, like it sounds like that is so short-lived. Like you stand back and you go, this is great, and then literally bang, it's gone. So I imagine the motivation to do things, like I'm kind of looking around now and going, okay, yeah, could clean it today. I'm going to get a good 2-3 weeks out of that. Like if I put that effort in. You guys sound like you get 2-3 minutes.
Mm-hmm. It's the same. Like you go at the front and you sweep up the leaves, and then it's a windy day. The next day, and the leaves are back. You just go, what? I might as well just wait it another week or another month and just let them all sort of come back. It's just demoralizing when you spent like X amount of time, and literally within an hour it's back to almost what it looked like. It's just,
You
yeah.
had 59 minutes of joy looking at that clean space you just did.
Yeah, I run around trying to catch the leaves as they float down.
What about you, Ebert, in London, going just to switch from household duties just to a run for a second, because you love running, but you're in the middle of winter, snowing, freezing cold. Is going for a run easy for you at the moment? Do you need a lot of motivation, or you still get the same, I'm happy to go for one, get the same buzz?
Good question. So the week that we had the freezing cold snow, positively, well, not so positively, I actually needed to take a week off exercise because I had to go and get a little minor surgery done. So that timed really nicely for me. But it is, I think the motivation there is a little bit like, if you think of that spectrum of, easy or harder, I definitely couldn't do it early in the morning because it's far too cold. But I haven't found too much of, like, there are days where it's almost like, I think if you do it and you make a habit of it, you need to do it. So I'm like, I just need to go for a run. And then you look outside and it is raining and whatever, and you just literally go running in the rain and it's 4 degrees and freezing and windy and stuff. So no, I probably haven't. What's dropped though completely from a motivation point of view, we were talking about this yesterday because we had some good weather and went out for a really long walk, is the motivation to do any incidental or unscheduled exercise. So I have like 3 or 4 scheduled training sessions a week, but then I'd usually do like another 1 or 2 something, or I just do it because I wanted to. That's completely dropped off because of winter. But I have spoken to a lot of people over here who have just basically been like, I'm not doing anything because it's so damn cold. And that, I think it goes back to the whole thing of what's the reward that you get for doing it and how much does it matter to you. And if you get like a really good reward from doing chores or cleaning, or it feels good, and you're a person that's inclined to that, you're probably more likely to do it. And for, I think both of us, that's like, running's really important. But if you're not, like, to Kane's point, you just keep going, what's going to happen if I leave it another week? That being said, though, I think there's going to be, once we get out of this lockdown thing over here, because of how long we've been in it, I will be very interested to see the state of everyone's healthcare, because I wonder whether that lack of motivation and a lot of people just doing so much less incidental stuff, with that dropping, it's almost like you now need to have more motivation just to maintain a baseline. And I'm not sure that that's happened with a lot of people. So it'll be interesting.
Just while we're touching on lockdown and COVID, have you been immunised yet?
No, I'm like, I'm a bill of health Kane, so I'm low on the list. But they've chewed through about 15 million people, so it'll get there eventually.
I was going to say, I thought given what you do, arguably in that sort of your physiotherapy space while we're not practicing, I thought you might have been on the list at some point.
I think I could flex some muscle and move myself into the list, but
you're not going Pete Evans on me, are you?
No. I could probably just put a few calls in and then move up on the list. But no, I think get it to the people that, I think that they've got their 11 categories or whatnot, and I actually quite agree with a lot of them. So I'm sort of quite happy to just wait for mine, and hopefully just by being a bill of health would not have any COVID problems. Because ultimately that's the best vaccine anyway, is the healthier and fitter that you are, the less likely, even if you do get the virus, you'll have any severe problems.
Yeah, we've obviously just started the rollout here I think the Victorian and the Australian one starts tomorrow. ScoMo got his on camera today, and the photo opportunity looking like a twit in his Australia mask and his Australia top. So yeah, it's coming to an arm near you if you want it. I think in Australia at some point over the next little bit of time. So it'd be interesting how that goes, and people's motivations for getting it or maybe not getting it. But I do get your point there. You mentioned before about running and the motivations around that, and yeah, how winter can be. You can lack motivation. It's the same. It's the same here, really. Like when it's cold and wet outside, I don't feel like doing any chores outside, and any chores inside or anything at all. I feel like I've had, a night of Cosmopolitan sometimes. So, and that's just the weather.
Surprisingly, I think what I'm looking forward to just doing nothing today for, it's like once in a very blue moon when I do that. The next day, I actually feel really motivated to do stuff. And the other thing I think that a hack that a friend of mine does when they're doing like chores or things that they hate is they put in certain rewards. So they're kind of, and like for me, it's even that simple thing of, I'll do the dishwasher in the morning whilst coffee's brewing, almost like psychologically knowing that once I've done this dishwasher, I get to enjoy a coffee. Like it's a reward-based mechanism. So I know that a few people do that just to motivate themselves into doing something, or, this one's a dodgy one, but people will be like, I exercise so that I can eat a donut.
Actually, this is one for you, Mick Ty. Chores. I'm sure at some point either you or Kim will have put together a list of chores which need to be done. Mine's called, the list of misery, which my better half will put together. She had on her phone, which was, washed away into the Portsea back beach down here when we went down for a day trip to check out the waves, which was great. So her to-do list, which included all the list of misery, had been washed away and was unrecoverable. So I was pretty chuffed with that. Do you have a list of misery? And B, when you do one of the tasks on the list of misery, I think it's important that you cross it off, because there's nothing worse when you do a task and somebody else crosses it off the list.
Yes, I agree with that completely. We did have one, but we haven't had one since we lived here. But when we did have it, it was fantastic. It was, it was almost like an A3 piece of paper just on the back of the cupboard.
That is misery.
Yeah, it was a lot of misery. And every known task in this household was listed from, washing the dishes all the way through to kids' sandwiches, and it'd be Monday to Sunday, and who's going to cook dinner, and obviously rotational basis on all the chores. So we should actually bring that back because it was fantastic. But yes, there's nothing worse than, going back to a reward. It's not a great reward, but it's a little one. Getting to tick that off the list. That's the reason, not the reason you do the job, but it's the reward for doing the job. And any list I make, even just once for myself over the weekend, there's always a little square box to the right of the task. And to tick that off, and to tick off all 5 or 6 or however you got on there, at the end of the day, you're cracking that beer with what's the word? With great proudness of what you've achieved.
Yeah, scrunch the paper up and throw it in the recycle bin.
That's right. Recycle bin, of course.
Now, you touch on cooking there, and I'm just a pop quiz for you both. If you were told, with some notice, a couple hours notice, what are you going to cook tonight for dinner? What would you cook for dinner? What's your go-to meal that you would cook? Matthew?
Roast chicken for me.
Roast chicken?
Yeah, I've got it down pat now, which is good.
We got an air fryer.
Many great things, but I can do a roast chicken.
We got an air fryer at Christmas. I tried to cook a full chicken in there last week. It turned out really well, like Red Rooster.
Oh, nice.
Which was impressive. Look, it was from the shop. It was, quite good. But no, roast chicken, that's a good one. What about you, Ryan?
Very nice. It depends. Am I cooking, something for, you've got to put a bit of effort into it, or is it just like, I'll quickly whip up some burgers and we'll call it a day?
Something which is deemed acceptable by TK.
No, I've got an Italian pan-fried chicken that I go to, which is that would be, I got to cook like a men's cookbook, I think when I was like 19 or something, and I think it's the only recipe out of there that I've nailed, so it's the go-to and has been for a decade.
Love it. Just dust it out when required.
Yep.
Mine's a family affair. Mine's called it's called Grinch spaghetti in our household. It's green, so it's basically blended spinach with garlic and some pesto and stuff like that, and just gluten-free spaghetti because we're in a gluten-free household. And then generally because we'll just throw some salmon or some sort of seafood in there. So it's, we call it Grinch spaghetti. So the little fella loves it because he loves, the Grinch who stole Christmas. So Grinch spaghetti always goes down a treat in our household.
He's a winner.
Nice.
But inevitably, some of it still ends up on the floor.
Then you got to find the motivation to deal with that.
Correct.
Winding up on the floor.
Correct. I think it's a good place to wrap up for this week because we've got back to, where we started talking about stuff ending up on the floor due to children. Remember to subscribe to Dad Eats Last on iTunes if you haven't done already. And while you're there, please leave a review. Also leave a review for our, what we cook for dinner. I think they're all good ideas. I want this pan-fried chicken recipe. Also tell your mates about the podcast, especially for that, guys. Most of all, thanks for listening. And we'll be back next week with another episode or a fluffy duck or two of Dad Eats Last. How's that for a dad joke? We will catch you next week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.